A few weeks ago, my local grocery store started to sell Hot Wheel toys in the self-checkout line. And so while I was getting my groceries, I reached over and picked up this Land Rover Defender 90, which I'm no car guy, but it looks like a pretty cool car. I'd probably drive it if I could afford one. Luckily, this one is a bit more affordable, as it was only about $1.50. And so I bought it, took it home, and today we were going to turn it into a post-apocalyptic zombie Land Rover. The first thing I want to do is separate all the different layers of this car, and I have to grind away at these rivets here. I'm just using my Dremel tool and a little burr bit, and I grind away until I can release all of the layers. It's kind of a messy process. This actually produced a lot more metal shavings than I originally thought it would, but eventually I was able to get everything ground down enough that I can release all of the layers. When I first started on this project, the plan was to strip away all the paint and then paint it some custom color. So using my Dremel tool and various sanding implements, I tried my best to get off the paint here. I will say this paint was very, very hard to get off. I'm not sure if it's powder coated or just a really strong enamel. I did some research online, but I couldn't find a solid answer on whether Hot Wheels are powder coated or some other hard paint. But either way, I'm just going to keep it as is for now, and I'm going to move on to getting these wheels detached. I know Hot Wheel has been around for quite a long time, so maybe the paint jobs have changed over the years, and that's why I was getting conflicting answers on whether they were powder coated or not. So if you know, let me know down in the comment section. Little fun fact about Hot Wheels: the creator of Hot Wheels, Elliot Handler, was married to Ruth Handler, who was the creator of Barbie. And together with another guy named Harold Matson, they co-founded Mattel. And to this day, Mattel is still in charge of making Barbie, Hot Wheels, and a whole bunch of other toys. In fact, they are the second largest toy maker in the world by revenue, only behind the Lego Group, who of course makes Lego. Okay, enough of the fun facts. Let's get back to building. As you saw before, I basically made new shafts for the wheels so that I could paint those separate. And now I'm working on a roof rack to hold all of the gear that this guy is going to be carrying around. I believe these white platforms are solar panels from some miniature kit. A lot of the miniatures I'm using in this build come from a bag of random model parts that I got from the bargain bin at my local hobby shop. Then using a tiny brass rod and some styrene strips, I build the little cage that goes around my roof rack. Now that that is built, I can start working on the zombie snowplow that I'm going to add to the front of the Range Rover. I believe these parts here are from some airplane model. Again, it came from that random bag, so I don't really know where these came from. I know they're model parts. And I put them together into this plow shape. And then using a piece of a cut-off sprue, I make a connection point to connect the plow to the front of the Range Rover. And what post-apocalyptic zombie car wouldn't be complete without some scary metal spikes? So I make some out of that same styrene that I used for the roof rack. And because this is all going to be painted the same base color, I can attach my zombie plow to the front of the Range Rover. In that grab bag of stuff from my local hobby shop, there was this machine gun kit, and so I'm going to put this together off camera because it's very small, and it would be almost impossible to do in front of the camera. I want to add some cages to the passenger windows, and to do that, I'll use some of this screen door material. As you can see by this demonstration, there's quite a lot of movement in this, which I'm going to try to solve later. First, I cut it up into 4 pieces that fit inside the passenger windows. And as you can see by this right here, the wires are not actually held together at all with glue or anything. It's just friction fit. So I'm going to try to solve that as well as this side-to-side movement like this. In this container is a mix of water, Mod Podge, and white paint. And I'm dipping the mesh in and then dabbing away the excess in the hope that the glue will, glue the wires together to keep them from moving as much. It did work. The pieces still move around some, but at least the wires are less likely to fall out now. This is kind of a strange project for me because it's not a lot of building and much more gathering of parts and then painting them all. So here are all the parts that I need to paint separately. I've got all the large pieces like the car, the frame, the wheels, and then I also have my mesh cages. I've got these little headlights that I made out of some beads. This is an extra tank I'm going to add to the back. It could be water or fuel, not sure. This is the cage system for the front windshield. I've got a cute little ladder here. This is going to be a vehicle snorkel, and then I have a small fuel canister that will go on the back spare tire. I have the machine gun here, and I added it to a platform that will extend it above the windshield. And I had to do this because without it, the shoulder stock was just too far back and it covered up the sunroof. And finally, I have everything that's going to go inside the roof rack. I have some boxes, some ammo cans, some gas canisters, and then just a bunch of other random stuff that I thought would look cool. In order to paint all of these tiny little things easier, what I do is drill some very small holes in the back of everything, and then I add wire to every little piece. Now, all these wires can either be added directly to some paint sticks, or in the case of all the tiny little bits, I add it to this painting tree, which is just a piece of wood with a bunch of small holes drilled in it. And then I can paint everything much easier and only using one paint stick. Then everything gets added to some paint sticks and sent outside for a coat of primer. The only color that I'm airbrushing is this gunmetal metallic, and I use that for the tank in the back, the frame, the cages in the window, and the ladder. The other silver pieces get hand painted, so all the rims get hand painted, as well as giving a slight silver dry brush to the roof rack, as well as the machine gun. And throughout this video and other videos on my channel recently and in the future, you may hear some construction noises. That is because they are doing construction right outside my window. Now let's move on to painting everything on my little painting tree, and these are all the colors I'm going to use. Quite the range of colors, and everything gets hand painted. I try and group all of these similar colors together, so I'm painting, all the brown things at once and then all of the red things, just to make it easier on myself. But I have a wet palette to my right, so I don't have to rush anything, and I just put on a good podcast and start painting. It took about half an hour to paint and weather everything on this painting tree, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out. Especially at such a smaller scale, painting everything individually like this before putting it all in the roof rack really helps sell the fact that these are all individual things and not just a pile of junk. We're continuing with our theme of hand painting here, and I'm just painting the wheel on the back to black, because it was silver from the airbrush, and I start to add a bit of first wave weathering to all of the tires and rims. The rest of the painting process is just making this car look less new. So it's a lot of adding rust and washes and making it look grimy. This is all a very similar weathering technique to the trash spots I make, but this one I have to be a little more careful with how I scale the weathering. Hot Wheels are typically 1/64th scale from what I've seen, so that is a bit smaller than what I'm used to, which basically just means I have to be careful to not over-weather it. Remember at the beginning of the video when I said I was going to paint this a custom color? Well, I didn't do that. I'm sticking with the original color, which I actually really like, and the sanding to try to remove the paint in the first place left the surface with a really nice weathered look with some of the bare metal already exposed, meaning I don't have to add any extra chipping effects because I already did that. At this point, most of the painting is complete, so I thought it was a good time to glue in the cages on the windows. I attached them with a very small amount of super glue, and they don't need much because I'm going to reinstall the original window underneath, and those will press them against the side and lock them in place. At this point, I also add the front windshield cover. Everything gets a protective clear coat, and while that's drying, I can start to work on the base. This is very similar to how I make most of my bases nowadays. I'm starting with a wooden plaque. This is some foam core from foam core board. Using some foam safe super glue, I attach them together and then clean up the edges with a file. Using a torch in a well-ventilated area, I burn in some texture. I want this to look like an off-roading dirt road because this is an off-roading vehicle, so that's the sort of scene I'm setting with this. I add some rocks from my jar of rocks, and I'm pressing them into the foam here so they look a bit more natural, like they're actually embedded in the soil and not just sitting on top. Then using some watered down Mod Podge, I glue them all in place and add some extra dirt sprinkled on top for blending. Once that is fully dry, I can give it a coat of flat black primer and a dusting of white, and then I can paint it to look like dirt. Now you may be asking yourself, why am I painting dirt to look like dirt? Why not just keep it looking like dirt? Well, where's the fun in that, huh? The actual answer is that the original dirt was not the right dirt color. I wanted it to be this dirt color, so I'm painting it to look like this dirt color and not the other dirt color. You following? Then, to add some life to this post-apocalyptic world, I'm adding a few little tufts of grass. And now comes the fun part. I mean, this has all been fun, but this is like the part where you can start to see everything come together. I get to put everything together. I had some slight difficulty getting the original windows back in place with the cages in there. It was just a bit too tight of a fit, so I did have to pull it back out. I made a few modifications, and then it was able to fit with a bit of persuasion. And by persuasion, I mean pressing really, really hard and hoping I didn't shatter it. I did not end up cracking it, luckily. And so I add the middle interior layer and then the bottom metal layer. And as you can see here, I did not color match these correctly, so I will quickly go in and color match those. Then I can glue the ladder to the side. I'm gluing it to the side and not the back because the back is where this giant tank is going to be, so it would just get in the way. I also add another small piece of mesh here, just for flavor, and I add an extra fuel canister to the spare tire. This is that vehicle snorkel I was talking about before. Originally, I'd painted it red, as you can see here, but it just was a bit too distracting, so I ended up painting it black later on. Like I said before, I'm no car guy, but I think I was thinking of those high-lift jacks that you see on the side of Jeeps sometimes, and so that's why I was thinking red. When I actually looked it up, most snorkels I saw were just black, so it works out. I know we're a bit past the painting process, but I do think it's a great time still to give a shout out to all my patrons over on my Patreon. Thank you all so much for the support. You know, if I get enough of you guys over on my Patreon, I can recreate this at a 1-to-1 scale with a real-life Land Rover Defender 90. Just maybe minus the giant machine gun on top. I don't think they will allow that where I live, but you know, I will try my best, I promise. We're loaded up, so let's hit the road and maybe even a few zombies along the way. Hey, thanks for sticking around till the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that one. I know it was a change of pace compared to my normal stuff, which is building robots out of trash and dioramas. If you want to see me make another custom Hot Wheels, please do let me know down in the comment section. I'm happy to do so in the future, mixed in with the other projects I make. If you have any other comments, questions, or concerns, you can put them down in the comment section. I do read every single comment and I try to respond if I can. If you did enjoy this video, please do consider dropping a like, consider subscribing, sharing, commenting, all of that fun stuff that shows that you enjoyed this video and that other people may enjoy it as well. I've got a bunch of other videos on my channel, so if you like this kind of stuff, please go check it out. I've got a whole bunch of other videos of me making robots out of trash and dioramas and all sorts of stuff, so check it out. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next video.